Joining me now, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Democrat from California, and the lone member of Congress to vote against the authorization for the use of military force in the weeks after 9/11, 14 years ago. Congresswoman, do you think it is a sign of political correctness run amok or cowardice on the part of the White House, Barack Obama and his staff, that they will not say the phrase radical Islamic terrorism or Islamic terrorism, as his critics allege?
The president and the White House, they're exactly correct on this, and I applaud them for this because, first of all, they're responsible for ensuring our national security. We have to be very careful in our language and how we perceive these horrible, horrific acts of terrorism. And we do not, I believe, want to see any more anger and hostility and violence in the world. And so they have to be very careful to ensure that our response to terrorism is a response that makes us safer, that begins to dismantle and degrade terrorist organizations, not create more havoc and more anger and more hostility in the world. And so I have to just say to the president and the White House that they're absolutely correct. And I'm not even talking about being politically correct, but I'm talking within the context of our national security. They have to take a very measured response. It must be thoughtful and it must be deliberate.
You were the lone dissenting voice in the lone dissenting vote in the authorization to use of military force passed just a few days, 10 days, I believe, after 9/11, 2001. That created the framework for what came to be known as a war on terror, and which, even rejected as a label, is continued under this White House. Much of the activity is continued, citing the authorization there. What do you think of all this, of people who point to what the horror and the murder in France and say, look, this is what we're talking about. We need to keep waging this war. We need to double down on it. We need to launch a new chapter in it.
What I have to say is what I said 13 years ago, Chris. First of all, we have to be very deliberate in our response. I'm a psychiatric social worker by profession, and so fear and anger, must not motivate us to make emotional decisions on such a terrible, terrible national security problem and issue that we have to deal with. Terrorism is very complicated and must be addressed. Killing innocent people, that's wrong, and we have to be deliberate in how we approach it. And so we cannot respond based on the emotion and the fear of the moment as legislators, because we're angry. Everyone is fearful, but we have to understand the context in which we're working and put forth policies that will create less danger and begin to dismantle and degrade terrorist organizations, not respond with emotion and not respond, with the fear and the anger that all of us feel.
Do you think the threat posed by these groups, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, the Islamic State, is commensurate with the Nazi threat of the 1940s?
First, let me say, this is 2014, and these are new threats. These are threats based on asymmetrical warfare. These are threats based on terrorism. These are threats based on ideological approaches to what I think is a very sick ideology in the world. And so we have to really know that we're dealing with now a new world. We're dealing with people who have, for whatever reason, have been radicalized and who, see others as enemies for whatever reason. And so I think these comparisons don't do us any good. I think we have to really understand the nature of terrorism, what it's about, and how we begin to really address these terrorist organizations within 2014. And I think those are the kinds of issues that have to be debated and discussed in Congress. We're in now another war in Iraq and Syria, Chris. We haven't been able to put forth any authorization, any debate, really to exercise our constitutional responsibility to put forth these arguments and these issues so the American people can weigh in and understand what is actually taking place. And so I am saying that these comparisons, the fact that we're in another war without a congressional resolution authorizing this war, we're in another war without members of Congress doing their job, engaging in these debates so the public can fully understand what is taking place. That's downright wrong, and I think we're abdicating our responsibility so that we can put forth all of the issues that you're raising and others, because I think we're at a defining moment where members of Congress need to be on the floor of Congress discussing each and every issue that we're raising tonight and what others are raising also.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you very much.